So we have had, after our last interview, Ismael, we've had some amazing questions from the listeners. So we'll be scattering those in as we go. But before we get started on to our main subject matter for the moment, I have to ask you about the exciting news yesterday, or is it, about the 10 plus 7 letter of the alphabet, we can't even say the number, making an extra drop, making a drop for the first time in ages yesterday. Do you know anything about that?
About are you talking okay
let me write it on the thing. About, can you see that?
Oh yes, definitely.
Sorry, every time Brice and I mention certain things, they don't let us upload the video, so we're talking code now. Yeah.
And actually, I'm just checking. My friend sent me that it's the first time in 17 months.
So is that something you've got any knowledge of, or any of your contacts have got any knowledge of?
Well, yes, as of 2021, November of last year, a new covenant was instituted in replacement of the old Babylonian covenant that was running, the dark hats and the dark occult. And so as a result of that, you could say within the last 6 months, the white operation has been a success, very successful, to the point where the dark hats actually are just hanging by a thread right now. And they know that their time is up. So yes, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of people are thinking that it's probably going to happen by this summer.
Yeah.
Changes. So, and even within the spiritual community and those that are into the stars, everything is aligning in favor of the disclosure and of the good systems being rolled out for humanity.
That's fantastic. So one of the main things that we were going to start off with today was talking us through the connection between the White Hats and the Galactic Federation of Three Worlds.
Absolutely, yes. So basically, the war down here between the dark hats and the white hats, it's just how can I say it? They're like it's a proxy war that's been going on within our galaxy for millions upon millions of years. So what the dark hats have been trying to implement here for the last, I guess, thousands of years, if you want to go back to Atlantis where they infiltrated, is something that, the negative regressives, the Draco, have been trying to do in our galaxy for almost about 600 million years. Yeah, so it's basically a war that is now coming to an end, luckily, because the good guys in our galaxy, known as the Galactic Federation of Free Worlds, which actually originated with a few star systems that were associated with Lyra. That's the original cradle of all human-like civilizations in our galaxy. So all our ancestors, including the Nibirian, Anunnaki, the Pleiadian, all human-like terrestrials or extraterrestrials descend from Lyra, where they originated. So including the Pleiadians, they're all descendants of Lyra. And so what started off as a small skirmish within the Ring Nebula, when the Lyrans first encountered the Draco, ended up manifesting into a full-out scale galactic war. Unfortunately, the Lyrans' first planet, headquartered world known as Avion, was destroyed in the process. But luckily, the king of Avion was able to sense the destruction beforehand through his clairvoyance, and he was able to send as many Lyrans to many parts of the galaxy in order to preserve the human race. Well, in galactic history, that is known as the Lyran diaspora. I'm sorry. And the diaspora was about preserving, the human stock in our galaxy. Otherwise, we would have never been here on this planet. This planet would have been totally inhabited by reptoids and negative regressives and perhaps even androids at this point, if that wasn't for, that smart move by the original galactic humans. So what happened was eventually the Lyrans, when they sent all these humans out to the different parts of the galaxy, they began to create a coalition of light, and that was known as the Seal of Palador. So this was like before the Galactic Federation was even established. This is going back to maybe about 560 million years. And that small coalition of light were the ones that were also combating the expansion of the Galactic Empire. Again, this little proxy war here is just the end of something that's been going on for a long time in our galaxy. So, and then later, of course, they became the Galactic Federation after millions of years. They included, they recruited all these different species, and some weren't even human. By the way, not all Galactic Federation forces are humanoids. Some of them are like, different types of species that are just very benign and very benevolent, like the feline race, the cetacean race, which is a bipedal type of dolphin race, or whale race that could actually walk on land. We have those as well. To every species that exists in our world, we have a type of hominid with that animal head, or whatever you want to call it, fish head, that exists throughout the multiverse. So the Galactic Federation is very diverse, but it is mostly comprised of galactic humanoids. And so the Galactic Federation was actually very instrumental in the liberation of our galaxy for millions of years. And one of their main purposes was to preserve and to allow many stellar groups to come and coexist in harmony with the exchange of technology and, of course, knowledge and stuff. And that's something that they've been doing for a very long time. So unfortunately for the Draco, which is a good thing, they have lost the war in space. And then most recently in 2018, the Galactic Federation with the Earth Alliance and the Whiteheads actually also secured our solar system from the negative regressives. So we don't really have many negative regressives running around since 2018. I think there's only a few left that are still lurking within like deep underground bases in Antarctica and other parts of our solar system. And I think some of them are on Mars. I'm sorry, inside Mars, because Mars is also a hallowed, decked out planet, just like most of the planets in our solar system are. And but from what I understand is that when the solar flash takes place, that's going to nuke all the negative entities that are still kind of like hiding in our solar system. But as far as like negative regressives in our galaxy, they've all been dealt with. Our entire solar system since I guess 3 months ago, since 2016, going back to 2016, was actually sealed and protected from any infiltration that perhaps could be coming from other realities, other parallel universes, and so on and so forth. So right now we are under a emergency rescue bubble that was actually imposed by a higher dimensional group known as the Carrions, who actually operate beyond the Galactic Federation. Some people call them the Blue Avians, but they are working with a higher dimensional collective known as the Raw Confederacy, which is a collective that goes beyond our galaxy. So yeah, we have like all the help from heaven, from every level of reality here on the Earth. So that's just a quick explanation of the history of the Whiteheads. And the Whiteheads have a lot to do with the descendants of the original galactic Lyran humanoid Pleiadian species. In Atlantis, the Whiteheads were associated with the Galactic Federation during the times of the Lemuria. Most of their temples were there because they received help from the coalition of light that came all the way from Sirius. Of course, Sirius is like the headquarters of the Office of the Christ. I guess this is what they call the establishment of the Christed energies, because that's what we are. The human-like, all human-like species come from that descendancy, from the Christed beings, by the way. So this is something that's now coming to an end here in our world in favor of the light, because again, this war has been going on for millions of years. And as of 2021, the Whiteheads have now had the upper hand. So it's just coming into fruition now, like with the liberation of the Earth, which is actually going to be celebrated in the cosmos, as many are here witnessing this transition. And so it's going to be more like of a galactic reunion with our space brethren and stuff who are actually waiting for us to go into the next level of reality, fourth and fifth dimensional levels.
I've heard that the Galactics are like tailgating with like flags and banners to like cheer us on. That's interesting. You said the Raw Confederacy, Raw Confederacy. Is that what you just said? Are you familiar with the Law of One?
I am, yes.
I'm a follower of the Law of One, that they were a collective of Raw. They called themselves Raw, and they explained what was happening. And their explanation fits in with a lot of these prophecies and with a lot of religions, and the fact that we are at this point shifting from third density to fourth density, which our consciousness goes to the fifth dimension, but our physical bodies, I know according to that, children under the age of 20 were born already with their fourth density body. Us though, according to this material, for those that were born, who are between the age of like 55 and 20, were put here on the Earth at this time, were already like fifth and sixth density beings that volunteered to come back down, to go through the veil of amnesia into a third density body to help planet Earth transition as well. And it's like the first time in all of the cosmos that human or living beings have been able to be on a planet when the planet itself also moves into a fourth density positive timeline. And so I hear that a lot of our galactic friends are quite jealous that they couldn't come down and be human during this time. listen, there have been many times where I've been like, abort mission, just come get me now. But, and I heard you say something too once, Ishmael, that was interesting, because this is also what the Law of One says. We're going to be living a lot longer. Those of us on planet, yeah, we're going to be coming into, we're not going to be having the same life expectancy that our parents had, our grandparents had, or which is kind of scary, a little freaky to know that you're going to have to extend your, but it's also exciting too.
Yeah, but we're all going to look like 30. You know, we're not going to age anymore, and that's the beauty of having these lifespans that are going to be thousands of years. That's the beauty of, you know, living in this time, is that our body is going through an upgrade. It's about to, you know, regress the aging process. Once the solar flash hits, I mean, everyone that is like in their 40s, 50s, and 60s or 70s that is still here is going to literally age regress back to what they looked like when they were 30.
I feel like that's already happening though. I feel like I watch, and of course we have ring lights and all that kind of stuff, but I feel like just watching a lot of the people in our community over the last couple of years, people I've been filming with, everyone's starting to actually look younger. And I'll go back and actually look at old videos of people just to make sure it's not my eyes playing a trick on me, but people are actually looking young, starting to look, there's more of a light in people's eyes, and which is really fascinating to see that.
So what about the animals, Ishmael? Will they, once the solar flashes happen, will they live longer as well?
Yes, because animals are also sentient conscious beings. So they're going to be very, at the level of humans, as far as like, you know, they're going to be more sophisticated, more intelligent, because they're also not using their full capacity. So everyone's being upgraded, you know, and this is going to be a time where we're actually going to be able to sit down and have full-on conversations with lions and bears, fish, and, you know, even trees and plants, you know, because in many extraterrestrial or advanced stellar civilizations, there's endless communication between the intelligences or the species that live there with the, you know, whatever the overall human-like species that is presiding over the planet, and everyone's in communication with one another. And that's what we're heading into as well. So just to digress a little bit, you know, there is according to my discoveries, there is a actual discovery that you could trace the Babylonian of the Dark Cats, you know, the bloodline of 13 bloodlines of the Dark Cats, all the way to Babylon, from Babylon to Egypt, from Babylon to Atlantis, where they infiltrated, and from Atlantis, you could trace them all the way to the Draco-Thuban star system and Alpha Draconis. So that's what the Dark Cats are. They're actually humanoid reptilian hybrids. And that explains, you know, some of the shape-shifting, some of the slit eyes, the vertical eyes that we see in some of these celebrities and political, you know, powerful political people, is because they're not like human like we are. We carry most of the Pleiadian, Lyran, you know, DNA livestock, whereas, you know, the elite families carry a greater percentage of reptilian genetics within their, you know, human genome than we do, and that's what makes us different than them. Yeah.
Can I ask you?
Oh, sorry.
We were talking about Atlantis. I know Catherine and I have spoken about Atlantis a lot because I know that I was there. I know I was there for the fall of Atlantis, and I just want to ask you, from your research and what you know, the Law of One also kind of speaks of this, and other people have as well. You know, we have these karmic cycles, and I always laugh that those of us that were there for the fall of Atlanta had a return ticket back to Earth for this time, and we know that, from what I understand, that what happened at the fall of Atlantis is mirroring what's happening now, although the outcome was different. And a lot of us that are here now, especially those of us that are very vocal, we're karmically doing that because we experienced this before. And I know a lot of people, it seems like a lot of people may still have some PTSD from that life of when Atlantis fell, because it fell because of service to self instead of service to others. Have you found that in your research? Do you think that's true, that we were there the first time and now we had a round trip ticket to come back this time too? And that's why we had to be here on Earth at this time?
Yes, absolutely. History is cyclical, so, you know, everything repeats in patterns. Yep. And the difference, though, between now and Atlantis is that now it's different. You know, in Atlantis, that was like a final, you could say, a final infiltration and takeover from the dark side. But of course, they were only given temporary power of this planet. And then once their power was cleansed in the higher dimensions, the time now is different. Now it's like the wicked are going to be purged with the sun's energy, right? And the good people of the earth are going to be upgraded and retranslated back into a fourth and fifth dimensional paradise on Earth that is actually still existing in a parallel universe. So, you know, yeah.
Well, and that's too, it's like, we talk about this a lot, like as our Earth kind of goes through this like metamorphosis, and I understand what you're saying. We were actually talking about that before I started filming, Catherine and I, about the multi timelines and all that kind of stuff, which is wild to think about, but that's kind of what I've been finding too in my It's like the dark hats want you to focus on one timeline to consciously get you there, while this other one's over here. That's the positive one. Anyway, but it's almost like what the Cassiopeians, the law of one say too. And I think this is what a lot of our audience or people watching right now, I know I've experienced it, is your body is kind of moving in and out of fourth and third density. It's like you can stay in fourth density when you're doing this all day, but then when you go out to the grocery store, you kind of get brought back down to third density again. And the law of one did speak about this transitional period where you would be in the process of like transitioning, and you would feel wooziness. You would feel like your body was in a vortex. You would all of a sudden feel a little bit like wonky or have some congestion. Is that also something? This would take some time to kind of transfer. Does that make sense? Like, is that what you're finding as well?
Yes, because from what I understand, we're already in the fourth dimension, but it's just a matter of people adapting and getting acclimated to these higher densities. Many of us in the spiritual community that are doing the work, that are, doing the clearing, going within, meditating, are actually already living a fourth dimensional, and some of us are already living a fifth dimensional conscious, reality, to the point where it's just a matter of their bodies just catching up. That's it. But mentally speaking, consciously speaking, a group number of us are already living in the fourth and fifth dimensional reality. But yeah, you're right. It's fluctuating for the majority of the people on planet Earth. It's like a flux. They're in the fourth dimension and then they're back to the third dimension. They're in the fourth dimension and it just goes back and forth. But again, that has a lot to do with the cusp that we're in right now. We're in huge, biggest transition ever in the history of the cosmos, where an entire planet for the first time in cosmic history is actually going to ascend collectively, as you know.
Yeah.
And are there particulars to physical symptoms? Because people are always talking about ascension symptoms and things. So are there particular physical symptoms that are associated with this?
Oh, most definitely. Ringing in the ears because of the fact that your pineal gland is opening up, your pituitary gland is once again being activated. So you're receiving downloads from your galactic star family or your angels, which are actually all connected to a collective that you're a part of. It's called your monad. Also, headaches because different parts of your brain are becoming reactivated. One of the things that I cover in my book is that during the times of Atlantis, what led us from dropping from a heightened state of consciousness to a lower state of consciousness was the fact that the negative Anunnaki, under the leadership of Marduk Belial-Baal, who was kind of like the draconian here in our world that was working for the Orion Empire. What they did is they disconnected 10 strands of our DNA by placing implants, which stopped the hormone known as pinolin and carbolines from reproducing, and then that's when our pituitary gland and our pineal gland began to shut down. And then as a result of that, about 97% or 96% of our brain became atrophied. But that is all reversing now. So those are part of the symptoms. It's your body's becoming upgraded. So it's just a matter. Oh, in your sleep too. Many people are having some amazing lucid, vivid dreamings. In some cases, they're actually tapping into parallel versions of themselves that exist in alternative universes. Because right now we're also converging the timelines. We're living in a time where all the timelines are coming into oneness. So, the dark hats want a negative timeline, right? And the forces of light want the positive timeline. But I could assure you that the positive has already been secured for those that are, on the path of ascension. And so, yeah, the symptoms could vary. Back pain, especially in your lower back, because the Kundalini energy is like really suppressed at your tailbone. And it's trying to go up your chakras. It's like a slinky, right? It's trying to come up. So that causes a lot of discomfort in your back. So the symptoms could range from, dreaming to having these, weird synchronicities take place in your life to physical symptoms. And another thing I wanted to share about the 7 chakras. In the book of Revelation, when John the Reveler says that at the end of the cycle, at the beginning of the new cycle, right? Because he never talked about the end of the world. He said, the 7 seals will once again be open, and that's when the kingdom of God will be established on the earth. Well, those 7 seals metaphorically are the 7 chakras. So right now, our 7 chakras, due to the fact that we were genetically downgraded to only using 4% of our genetic material, have been, operating at 4%. So as we become upgraded, the 7 chakras are going to be spinning universal life force at a very higher capacity, to the point where our bodies are going to go from carbon-based DNA to crystalline DNAs. And then, that's the true meaning of the 7 churches or the 7 seals of Revelation. It's nothing to do. understands where you narrow down your focus. So when you're able to do that, and you're mindful, you're actually, writing the codes in. You're manipulating reality, and that's the best way to do it.
And that fits so beautifully. We spoke last time about people like Joe Dispenza, because that fits so beautifully when you go into that meditative state and you really are in the present moment. That's when those upgrades can happen immediately in your body, and you get the spontaneous healing. It's just incredible. So that just fits perfectly with that.
That's the whole yoga practice, is keeping the yoga chitta vritti nirodha. It's keeping yourself. And I'll tell you guys, in traditional yoga, you have a set series, and there's this back bend that I always hated, and I've punched a teacher coming out of, but it was always 2 hours in my practice. And in my first sun salutation, I would already be stressing about this posture, and working on actually being in the moment where I was helped that evolve in a better way. And so in a very literal sense, you can really practice that in the things that you do every single day. But really, I mean, there's a form of meditation from Japan. I'm not sure what it's called, but it's something I will practice. I have anxiety. So I will practice this. Like if you're cutting carrots up to make, sometimes we're cutting those carrots and we're thinking about something else, but bring your mind to that actual practice of, now I'm cutting the carrots. Now I'm cutting the carrots. Now I'm cutting the carrots, right? It's like the past has already happened. Tomorrow never comes. Stay in this moment. You're in the shower. Now I'm washing my hair. And just that practice of bringing yourself to the action that you're actually participating in, it really does work. And I love that you said, you brought up the 51%, because I know that there's people out there that stress that they're not kind enough, or they're not service to others enough. And in the law of one, you just have to be 51%. So 49% of you're allowed to have a temper tantrum every now and again. That's called being human. Like, you don't, it's just that most of you has that empathy, that compassion, that longing to the betterment of everybody. And I think most of our people watching fit that. You are that. You do care about other people. It doesn't mean that you're going to be perfect every step of the way. It doesn't mean that you're not going to say something asshole-ish every now and again. Like, that's just part of the process of being in this existence. So I love that you brought that up, because I think I want people to really hear that. Cut yourself some slack. It's normal to be human.
And also, don't suppress your feelings. Even if there are circumstances that trigger you, go ahead and feel it. But also understand that don't let that carry on. Feel it and then purge it and let it go, because ultimately you have the control. You have the power of feeling whatever you want to feel and thinking whatever you want to feel. So don't be a victim of that.
Yeah, that's great advice, and it just answers so many questions for people. Just be there and just know and trust that the really good things that happen coming, and the right people are going to be there with you, because there's so much. I would say over 50% of the questions we got, Ismael, were about, will family members be ascending together? Will they still be in connection with each other? What's your thoughts on that?
I believe so, yes. Especially if they're just people that normally are good people that don't mean any harm. They're going to get a free pass. It doesn't mean that they're all going to the same dimension, but even if a few of them are very spiritual, very highly evolved and developed, they're still going to be able to access lower dimensions in order to be with their loved ones. Because from what I understand, the majority of the world is going at least to the fourth dimension. A good portion of us, those that are doing the work spiritually, especially the starseed community, they're going directly into the fifth and above. But again, they're going to be able to pop back into the lower realities at will whenever they want. And, act like angels, of course.
What about people that have already passed over? So that's another lot of questions on that, was if, loved ones have already passed over, when you go up to the higher dimensions, will you be in contact with them?
It depends on their soul contract and their overall life blueprint, and also depended on how they live their life. If they were, again, it goes back to that universal law of 51% over 49% of service to others, then they're actually going to be waiting for the rest of us in the fifth dimensional, fourth dimensional Earth. Yes, they're already there. In other words, because see, the fifth dimensional Earth is known as Terra. It's a planet that is already existing, but in a higher dimension. So it's already here in the same space, just vibrating at a higher frequency. So it's kind of like what Jesus said, heaven is all around us. It's just people don't see it because you have to tune your vibration to that level of reality where you can see the oneness of everything and the beauty of heaven on earth. It's a frequency. That's what it is. And because it's a frequency, it's also a state of being. And because it's a state of being, it's also a type of reality.
My grandfather passed away in 2017. All of my grandparents are no longer here, but this one particular grandfather, and I feel him more with me now than I ever did when he was alive. And when you said that, it's like, I feel like he comes through in channelings and like he's there waiting, you know. So when you said that I think a lot of people that are watching probably have that experience, and you feel that connection, that they're just waiting for you.
Yeah.
Sure.
One of the other questions I've had, and just jump in with your questions as well, Brice, is a lot of people are asking, what exactly is a Stargate, and has one just opened?
Okay, so the entire multiverse is connected through wormholes, stargates, and portals. That's the way many intelligences have access to one point of the multiverse to the next in split seconds. It is the ultimate way of traveling. You know, they don't use spaceships and traverse space and, you know, taking them days to reach a star system. They just do it through portal technology. There are natural stargates, and then there are artificial stargates. The natural stargates are located where certain ley lines cross, creating a vortex of energy. An example of that would be where most of the megalithic monuments are located, like Asbury, you know, a Stonehenge, the Sphinx, pyramids. They are all created on top of a stargate. So those are the natural stargates. The natural stargates that have always existed since the beginning of time. And then there's artificial stargates. Those are the stargates that are associated with external technology, or in some cases, there are also artificial stargates that were developed by AI and the progressives in order to, you know, conduct their nefarious acts, right, and traverse the different realms and levels of reality. So those are the different stargates. Now the question is, are any stargates opening up at this time? Well, CERN is trying to open up a huge stargate, and I believe they're going to rank up that collider, particle accelerated, like never before. You know, I heard that on the 5th of July. And so what they're trying to do is they're actually trying to merge our universe and our world with a parallel falling universe, because there's also 12 versions of our universe and 12 versions of our galaxy. You know, we're part of the alpha system where the light is winning. That's the positive timeline. Well, there's this thing called the negative system known as the omega, and that's where the antichrist in the form of AI and, you know, draconian dark entity archon energy is in control. So they're trying to shift us over into that timeline. But from what I understand is that the forces of light are not going to let that happen. You know, so I'm not, you know, no fear mongering here. Everything's under control. They could try to open up the Stargate using the collider, but it's not going to be successful. I could assure you of that. And yeah, you know, that's the difference between the stargates. But there's also 12 major stargates that are also known as the hulls of Amenti that connect the Earth with higher versions of the Earth, like Gaia, Terra, Arimathena, Sophia, which are Earths that still exist in the higher dimensions, all the way up to the 15th level of reality. And those are the stargates known as the 12 meridian time warps, or the 12 major stargates. Those are, from what I understand, is those are going to be opening up when the sun releases its final flare, and that's going to ultimately connect the Earth to the 12th dimensional time matrix, allowing people to live, you know, on different levels of reality. So that's going to be interesting. But yeah, those are known as the 12 major stargates. There's different names to describe those.
Yeah. Do you know anything about the land around the Georgia Guidestones? Would that have been an artificial, or was that, or did they put those guidestones there because it was an actual vortex or portal, or?
I think it was artificial, because the whole purpose of you know, writing those was to kind of predict a negative timeline.
Yeah.
That's been canceled. So I think that was an artificial vortex that was created. Yeah.
It's very creepy. I've been out there a couple of times, and it's literally in the middle of nowhere. Very creepy. So.
Yeah.
I don't want to go there. So we've had a lot of questions also about blood types. So if we're all, it gets a bit complicated for us mortals to understand. So if we're all connected to everything that is, and then if we've incarnated this time in a particular body, and that particular body carries with it a particular bloodline or blood group, or both actually, how does that work when you're looking back through your past lives and your ancestry? Because, you know, you can be in loads of different forms for that. So is that blood group and your bloodline just relevant to your current incarnation?
Yes, because even your ancestors are all part of your overall monad. In reality, they're all you. You know, your ancestors and your descendants at the higher levels of reality, because time is simultaneously. We're only perceiving it from point A to point B here in the lower dimension, third. But in essence, it's all happening at the same time. So in that way, I guess in that aspect, in that regard, your ancestors never die. They're still living. and also, they're actually living through you here in this timeline. So, yeah. You and your ancestors and your descendants are all part of the same monad. You guys are all one cosmic oversoul that is experiencing, different levels of reality on different times, but really all at the same time. Yeah. I hope that makes sense.
It does make sense. It's just, I go quiet afterwards because it's just so profound and just taking it all in. So yeah.
Brice. This might be a stupid question, but does that explain ghost? And I've heard this before because, down here in the South, everything's haunted. Are you literally seeing the transference of a different timeline? And that's what we perceive as ghosts, kind of like the Others, that movie, the other, like, are they actual spirits that are not ready to leave? I mean, would that be ghosts? Would that be like they're living out a timeline and you just happen to like kind of see the outline of that? Does that make sense? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
That makes perfect sense. That could be the case. Or it could just be spirits that are in a transition. They haven't yet reincarnated or received a new body and they're just kind of lost as well.
Yeah. So in this current, I'm just going through all the masses. I've lumped together everyone's questions. Took me ages, everyone, into sort of categories. So obviously we're on YouTube, so there's certain words we can't use. So when we talk about this in your arm, there's so many people that are so concerned about themselves if they've chosen or been coerced into having that, or their loved ones. Is that relevant to people ascending?
Again, it goes back to their contract before incarnating. Before incarnating, they already made the decision, that if they were going to get it or not. Now, again, it goes back to the law of one. If they're overall good people, generally speaking, good people, and if they were just coerced to get that in order to preserve their finances and stuff, keep the family going, then that stuff's going to be nuked and neutralized when the solar flash takes place, and they will have an opportunity to ascend. But those that are in support of that, they're actually pushing that, and that have totally, joining the other side. Unfortunately for them, they're going into an alternative timeline where it's going to be negative.
Yeah, so that means anyone who's got, a child or a disabled person that hasn't made a willing decision, they're going to be fine. It will be neutralized.
It'll be neutralized. Yeah, that's what the solar flash is. It's the most powerful EMP that destroys all nano, graphene, anything has to black goo, you name it, that is associated with the beast, artificial, right, is going to be nuke. Yeah.
And that will count also for all the horrible poisoning from the air and the water and the food. That's all going to be neutralized as well, isn't it? Is that almost instant, Ismael?
Yes, it's going to happen instantly. It's going to happen within the blink of an eye. Yeah, and all of a sudden the entire world's just going to look different, instead of having the boring old, building structures that we have, combustion, right? Gas, that's all going to be outdated. It's going to be different. We're going to be using free energy devices. Everyone's going to have like a box that's pretty much like a shoebox, as big as a shoebox in front of their home. That's going to give them free energy. But we're also going to, as a planet in general, we're also going to be, using planetary and stellar energy as well. In other words, we're going to be harnessing energy from our planet and our sun through free energy technologies.
Wow. And I want to say too, because I know the law of one, they talk about martyring yourself is actually a negative polarity. And with this thing, I know I'm in a very lucky situation that I work from home. So I don't have any overlord demanding this and making my life a living hell. I work from home, so I'm my own boss. So it's easy for me to decline this, but I want to put that out there that even though we're very vocal about this, if you were coerced and you had to preserve your family, you were doing what you had to do to protect yourself and protect your loved ones. So don't, but I've heard that too, that the people that are really pushing it and making it, that they're going the other way. So I think there's a lot of gray in this, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. The next question regards free will. So in our current reality, obviously we talk about things making decisions before we incarnated, and then we come here, but we've got free will. How do those two go together?
It's both, because at the highest level of reality, your oversoul already made all the decisions. So yeah, it's both at the same time. It's predetermined, but yet in this lower reality or in this lower dimension, it seems like, again, it's going from one point to the next. So you're making decisions based on that, but those decisions had already been made by your higher self before you incarnated.
Is that a bit like, because I was trying to explain it in my words, but I might be getting it completely wrong. Is it a bit like, you could be born with a physique that makes you really brilliant at a certain sport, but you've still got to put the training in to be able to realize that? Is that an analogy of it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's an analogy for that. You're right.
Okay, fantastic. What about sacred geometry? Does that play a role in all this?
Oh, absolutely. It's at the base of all simulation. It's at the base of all manifest, and anything that's physical material is generated by sound frequency, which in turn is generated by geometrical patterns. In fact, all throughout the entire 12-dimensional matrix that we are part of, because of course everything's a simulation, even the fifth dimension. We're living within a simulation within a simulation. The only thing that is base reality is pure energy, which is God-based reality, eternal source. Anything other than that is just a simulation or a step down frequency from that eternity. So it's all being generated by geometry. Every level of reality, every dimension has a geometrical pattern that is keeping it intact as a hologram. And of course, depending on your avatar, if you're existing there with a particular avatar, then you're interfacing with that hologram, making that reality as solid as this one. When in essence, it's all empty space, really.
I just absolutely loving how this is all coming together. It's just brilliant, isn't it, Brice? So
yeah, it's gnarly to think about. Like, if you really, and I tell this to my students all the time, like when you really sit back and think about what we're talking about, it can kind of blow your mind a little bit. But I know, like, through the sacred teachings, through the Yoga Sutras and some of the Vedic texts of India, it's like your soul needed to create this experience, the body, the form, the reality we're in. That's the Shakti. That's the expression of the Shiva, or the soul. It created it. Your soul created this in order for it to then know itself again. And so all of this, in some ways, even though it's kind of gnarly to think about that, it's beautiful, because when you realize that you're the one that set this up, you're the one that made this your life this way, it gives you your power back. And you start to understand that certain obstacles in your life are just lessons, and they're just opportunities to it's like you said, Catherine, you're given a body that's able to be, say you were given this amazing body, the potential to be an incredible runner, to be a fast runner. But if you don't do the work, it's not going to happen. But doing that work to get to that point of your dharma, of your life path, is where you grow and learn. I mean, it's cheesy. It's like, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. I mean, as cheesy as that is, it's true, because that's your soul. Everything is just your soul understanding itself. And the soul itself is just pure, abundant love. It's just pure, abundant, like, consciousness. And that spark, it's like, one thing I love about the Sophia Code is it talks a lot about the Holy Spirit. And, if you grow up in a church, they like to make you think that you have to go through some ritual to invite the Holy Spirit in. But they're saying, no, it's never left you. You've always been that fractal of that God. You've always had that light. God said, let there be light. Genesis 1:3, we know the Hebrew original word for light meant divine spark. You are that divine spark. That's it. And your soul created this reality for it to know itself. And when that clicks, it's like, oh, wow. So not even death is scary. You're not even because death is an illusion anyway. You're never going to die. It's like, it's your experience, and you set it up. You did that. And that's a plot twist, because now you don't have to be in victimhood, because it's you, it's your soul. And at the end of the day, we're all connected anyway. So we're all fractals of the same source. So, although I wish there's some people I don't want to be fractals of that source, but but it becomes pretty special when you start to see that. But it can be very scary for people, especially Westerners, who, I come from a medical family where your body was one thing, your mind was another thing. And if there's cancer in your family, you're going to get cancer. You got to watch for this because it's right out. It's very separate. It's very separate. And so I think for a lot of Westerners that are just starting to become aware of this idea, it's like, it can kind of be overwhelming and be very scary. But the minute you kind of relax into it and settle into it, it's the most beautiful thing you'll ever experience, because all of a sudden you realize how powerful you are and how powerful we all are. That's the one thing the dark cats don't want us to know. They don't want us to know how powerful we are, because they're scared of us. So
yeah, but not only the dark cats, the regressives that were above them, and the AIs, they don't want us to know how powerful we are, because we were created to pretty much be the guardians of not only Earth, but the entire multiverse, once we start using our dormant DNA. And every extraterrestrial out there is already using 100% of their full genetic material and mind capacity. And so we're only using 4%. Now at 100%, they're only telepathic. Some have telekinesis, but we're going to have powers beyond that. Yeah.
So there's so many questions for people sort of saying, what would be good for them to be doing now? So we've talked about being present. Are there other things, Ismael, that you think that people can be doing to prepare for this, to bring it forward, to make sure that everything's definitely going in the right direction?
Yes, make sure that you're only putting good stuff in your body. Try to get away from the genetically modified foods and go into the organic, raw, living foods, because those are the foods that are still loaded with universal life force from the sun. So your body needs that actual nourishment. As far as like your diet is concerned, I would start exercising for those that don't have that daily habit. It is a balance between mind, body, and spirit. So it's not just your spirit ascending, your body, your mind, everything's ascending. So you try to live a life of balance. Try to incorporate a form of daily exercise, daily meditation for your mind and spirit, and then also good works. Every person that you're interacting with, you're either how can I say it? You either have a positive impact or a negative impact. So just remember that. Always be the better person, because after all, we're here to bring in, heaven on earth. We're here to bring in the new unity consciousness, is what is called Christ consciousness. And technically, that's what the second coming of Christ is the idea of this Christ mind being born, by millions of us all at the same time.
This is why I got so many emails and text messages when you first started doing shows, and they were like, you guys are saying the same things. You guys are saying the same things. Because I tell my students, or my viewers, that all the time, that yeah, exercise is unbelievable. And I think that's too, like in the Western world, again, as a woman, we've been taught to exercise wrong. We've been taught to go to the gym to burn calories, to punish yourself. But when you start to move your body, I mean, I did a whole show with my friend Stephanie over on Aquarius Rising Africa about the obelisk, and they want to tell us that that's Osiris's male genitalia. But I found in my research that it actually started off as being the spine. It was them showing the spine where Kundalini rises, where the Shikhem, where the life force. So every time you see an obelisk now, change your perspective. That's reminding you that you have that power of resurrecting that Christ within you. But it's up to you. You have to do the work. You can bring the horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You have to be the one to consciously, when we were talking about triggers, you brought up triggers earlier. And to me, triggers are people's golden lottery tickets. Like when you feel that trigger come up, it's your body. Your body is so special. Your body is so beautiful. And it's showing you through your nervous system something that hasn't been healed, something that hasn't been processed and transmuted. And it's up to you as the alchemist to then go, okay, I'm triggered. I agree with you. Let me express that. Let me feel all the feels that I need to feel, and then let me work through it so I can release it and create a new pattern. And we know that the bad side, the bad guys, they want to, create, you can't trigger anyone. You can't do this, but that's where the potency lies. That's where things get interesting, is when you actually allow those. And some of those triggers, we talk about, you inherit, you do, because it's a never ending, when the sperm hits the egg, whatever vibrational frequency that sperm was when it hits that egg is now in that child. But now that's that child's responsibility. It's not the parent's responsibility. It's the child's now. And that's the karma they agreed on. They agreed on that to be able to work through that in their life. And it's so powerful. It's so powerful. And exercise is also great when you learn how to do it properly, to discover things about this subtle body and to feel the things coming up that are locked within the fascia, because our thoughts and our emotions are stored within that cellular memory as well. And so that, I'm glad you brought that up. I was very happy when you said that, because
in terms of that's really, really useful advice. I was completely put off. I've got off target now. What was I going to say? Let's talk about, before it will come back to me. So could you just tell people what they can expect if they take one of your courses? Because I know you're pretty booked up at the moment. So we've got your book, The Cosmic Origin. I got into trouble last night because it only arrived yesterday and then I couldn't put it down. So I was up really, really late reading it. It's really, really good. But you're also offering courses as well. So what can that do and how can that help people, Ismael?
Well, for one, I go in depth as far as revealing the, higher level cosmic knowledge and information in great detail. I describe the difference between the different dimensions, the different advanced space age civilizations, and how it relates to the strands of DNA that each species uses. So it's an in-depth, intel drop of just amazing information. But at the same time, I also provide techniques and methods that allow people to actually begin to access their galactic selves. Because believe it or not, this is just an avatar that we're using here in the lower dimension. A lot of us are actually operating from motherships or even beyond that. We're, overseeing, different parts of the galaxy as guardians, but yet we're simultaneously existing there and here at the same time. So even though we are the ground crew, it seems like we, forgot also about the mission and the other aspects of ourselves that are coexisting in other realities. So what my my classes do is they provide in-depth information while giving people the tools and methods to also begin accessing those parts of themselves, and also memories of who they were before they became, the personality that they are here on at this time. So that's what I offer.
Absolutely fantastic. And as always, obviously the links will be below the video for the book and for the courses. That's what I was going to say. It's what I forgot. So we've had loads and loads of questions for people. Obviously, there's a lot of people at the moment that have either got chronic diseases, disabilities, really severe injuries, etc. So there's been so much expectation of a lot of the new healing technologies, medbeds being just one of them. But for some people, they really feel time is running out for them or for their loved ones. Any advice for those? I mean, I know we can't put timelines on it, but first, one of the whole load of questions about when the solar flash happens, will people be healed, and what can they be doing now?
It's going to be spontaneous healing across the planet when the flash takes place. If they could only just hang on a little bit longer, hold on. And even if they don't make it, remember, this is just a vehicle. It's not like you're dying. Your spirit is immortal. So all you're going to do is you're probably just going to transition into the fifth dimensional Earth before everybody else. But you will be reuniting with your loved ones once the solar flash takes place. So,
do you know, for me today has just been absolutely wonderful, because you've answered so many of people's questions by the principles of what you're putting across. And the main message I've got out of it is it's not in any of our interest, in anyone's interest, to focus anymore on what's gone wrong and what's caused all this, because we are there, we are nearly there. And the more we all focus on that and enjoying the right here by now, does it give more meaning, Ismael? I know it's very triggering for people when people have been saying almost enjoy the ride. But to me, I take that is enjoy every minute of every day right here, right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Don't just look forward to the destination, enjoy the process of transformation. We're in our cocoon state right now. And once we come out of it, we're going to be a wholly different species. Like the Bible says, our celestial bodies are going to be activated and we're going to become immortal. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Have you got any other questions, Brice?
No, I'm just so thrilled because I most of my research, I'm big in the spiritual world too. That's my job outside of YouTube. So a lot of this stuff is I'm very familiar with through my studies in India and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of my research too, through missing books of the Bible, all that kind of stuff, has led back to the galactics as well, and led back to stuff that we just weren't told. And so I thank you for putting your books out there and putting all your information out there, because it really is very liberating for us humans. And just the fact that I just love how we are very, even though we are the ground crew, you were selected, this, as the law of one says, it took a very well-versed soul to be able to volunteer, to come down, to have seniority, to decide to come down and be here in this moment in a human body to experience that. And there are so many, I've heard that from many of these forums, that there are, galactics basically tailgating right now, watching and celebrating us as we and every time I've had anything with the galactics, it's always the first thing you hear is thank you so much for your service, thank you so much for doing this. I want people to know, and I don't even think we fully understand it yet, how much our impact is ricocheting out throughout the whole galaxy right now. And that's how powerful you are. And I know I had a memory of coming down to Earth for this, and I thought it was just a vision, but our friend who works on this lot said no, that's a common memory people have. And as I was walking down a hall, all these angels were bowing.
Yes, exactly. Yes, to the galactics and to the angelics, we're considered, the new creator gods as we become more multidimensional. And so everyone's going to be bowing to us. But of course, we have to stay humble, right?
Yeah.
Of course. Yes. Yeah. So I just want everybody, because I know it's tough right now. And I know if you're in other countries that are even more, I know, but just understand it is tough right now because the bad guys are scared of you, and they know how powerful you are. So take your power back. Take it back.
Oh, really quick. The artificial portal that the Dracos and the Greys were using to siphon off people's energy. One of them is actually located in Australia. And that portal has now been closed down by the Galactic Federation and the Earth Alliance as of a month ago, which means that the White Hats, and of course, Russia is leading the way. They've already implemented the Gesera and Nisera programs, by the way. They're not part of the Western system anymore. Yeah. And so as I speak right now, the entire globalist structure is declining. It's falling.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today. We all appreciate you so much. And, there's been lots of questions about why now, but to me, for the information that you're sharing, it's really obvious why now, why you're really coming out at this time and sharing your knowledge. Is there anything else you want to share?
Not at this time. I feel very blessed to be here, to be of service, and most importantly, I'm so happy with the work that everyone's doing out there. So I just want to express gratitude to all the light warriors, the healers, the star seeds, and everyone that is doing their part in this disclosure, in this ascension, this activation. Just remember, we're all a team. We're all a collective, because eventually, as we move on to the 6th dimension, we become part of a social memory complex, while still maintaining our individuality, but yet we're going to be part of a universal consciousness field, which is amazing. So yeah, keep up the great work. We're doing it.
We certainly are, and that involves everyone who's watching this. Everyone's got their role, and they're all as important as each other. So enjoy it, know that everything's all right, and really take care of yourself at this time. It's the best thing you can do. So thank you so much, Ismael. I hope that we will be able to persuade you to come back. I know you're a very, very busy man. The links to the books and the courses are below. It sounds to me like that's something that everyone would benefit for doing. And thanks so much as well, Brice. Take care.
Bye, guys.